Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. As a pastor, we always, when we walk into a sanctuary, we have to make the people in the pews make some noise, right? We just have to. And so, if you are grateful for the work that dfree is doing, can we just acknowledge our leaders, acknowledge our founder, acknowledge our executive director? Come on, we can do better than that. We're not a church if we don't stand to our feet and acknowledge our leaders. And so, just so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing. And we're just so grateful for what dfree is doing in the lives of people. I know what it's done for me personally. And just so grateful to share this panel with each of you. And I pray that we have some great conversation. And we're going to jump right on in. So I'm just going to ask this quick question. And we're going to start with Mr. Raiford. Tell us about yourself and talk to us about your organization's experience with dfree to date.
Yeah, my name is Dwight Raiford, and I come from America's Freedom Church, the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church. And I was joking with somebody, and you see I joke a lot, joking with somebody this morning, telling them, yes, that we may be the only Black Baptist church that has a U.S. Senator for a pastor. So I bring you greetings from Reverend Dr. Senator Raphael Warnock. And Reverend Warnock, very inspirational leader who wants to bless the whole congregation and every part of it and every part of the person there. And financial freedom is key to us becoming whole. So it was, kind of natural that dfree become a part of what we do. We are, I got personally involved in it from my old church in stewardship ministry. My old church, unfortunately, was in some serious financial difficulty. And part of the way out of it was, how do we get people to see the joy of tithing? The joy of tithing, not the obligation to tithe, but the joy of tithing. And that began a spiritual journey for me to understand that. When I got to Ebenezer, totally different financial management situation, but the idea of creating or helping people to understand the joy of giving beyond themselves, supporting their church, and just watching God work when He's involved in your money, when He controls your money. So we looked for financial education programs. We interviewed a number of people, the Ramsey folk, the Crown people, sorry. And then we interviewed Reverend Sutton. And that was all she wrote. And we adopted the dfree program. We launched last fall with our first course. And I'm probably a long ways beyond your original question. And I'll tell you one more thing that we did that I was real proud of. On Juneteenth of this year, which you may remember was also Father's Day, we had a one-day session on debt, freedom from debt, emancipation from debt, which was very appropriate to do on Juneteenth. One final piece that we're really proud of, our first graduating class from dfree occurred last fall. And it happened to coincide when Dr. Soros was preaching at our church. So we had our graduation ceremony, and it's really something when you have a graduating class and the founder of the school that they graduated from shows up to thank them. So we thank you for that. And we're launching again this fall for another one. I'll sort of put a pin in right there.
Well, thank you for that, letting us know, talking to us about the joy of tithing. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. and also just seeing the context in which dfree can be implemented in. We'll talk some more about that a little bit further on down the line. Um, Deacon Barry. No, I'm sorry, Deacon Davis. Deacon Davis. Talk to us about your experience with dfree to date and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm married mother of two. I have a older son that has cerebral palsy, is in a wheelchair, and then I have my younger son who is a senior this year. So thank God for that. Um, let's see, for with regards to I'm with Prudential, and when I first came to Prudential, I really knew that I wanted to work with my community. So for 11 years, I had been with Morgan Stanley, and I got to see that a lot of the information that was there was not given to our community, right? And so for me, it was important when I was hired at Prudential that I work with our community. And I knew I wanted to bring this to my church. Um, well, I wanted to work with the people in my church. And Prudential didn't have like a complete program that was like a soup to nuts, program. It was like putting workshops together that I would have to do. And so I would do workshops, and it was just really wasn't what I was looking for. And then my partner at work, Alice Barnes, introduced me to dfree at her church. And she brought me in as a co-host, and she was like, go online, do the leadership process so you can, co-host with me. So that was when I was first introduced to dfree about 3 years ago. And I really knew that I wanted to bring this to my church. So that was how, basically, for me.
Thank you. And so you saw that dfree filled a gap that so many other organizations and programs were not. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, definitely. And so, being a part of her church at Mount Lebanon, I was like, I want to bring this to my church. So I talked to my pastor about it, and he was like, oh, yeah, okay, we could do that. And so, my pastor, he is actually here today, Bishop H. Curtis Douglas, a phenomenal pastor at Debar Bethlehem Cathedral. Thank you, Bishop, for coming out and supporting me. I appreciate it so much. We talked about it, and we are like, okay, yeah, we're going to get it. And what's crazy is we had a Juneteenth conference last year, right, for the celebration of the first Juneteenth. And we actually had Dr. Soares as a panelist on our Juneteenth program. And so when he came in, I knew he was coming because I'm part of the audio team there. And I was like, I brought my book with me for him to sign. And when he came up, I was like, Dr. Soares, will you sign my book? I was like, I do dfree, will you sign my book? And he's like, sure. I said, I really want to bring it to my church. I said, he's like, yeah. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm going to talk to your pastor. It'll get done. And I will say, he signed my book, and the next, that was Saturday, or last year, so it was a Saturday. And then the very next Sunday, my bishop comes up to me, and he's like, we got to get dfree here. I was like, yes. And so it was like from that point on, it was like, okay, let's organize this. And I was actually just made a deacon last year. And so I was on the leadership, thank you. I was on one of the leadership Zoom meetings that we have monthly. And he was like, okay, Deaconess Andrea, we're going to get dfree launched. So we tried to get it launched, I think we said we were going to launch it, I think, in January, but we ended up launching it in the following February. So since then, it has been phenomenal. I am so appreciative of the dfree Foundation and how it is really created a movement in our community, not just about being debt free. It is not okay, come bring us your information about your debt and we're going to help you get rid of it. No, it is a transformational lifestyle change. We have been prayed upon continuously, continuously. And dfree is a transformational lifestyle mental change that walks you through what it really means to plant a seed and bear fruit.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. It is dfree is a protest against predators, but it also is a plan towards prosperity. I like that. I like that. I like that. Reverend Lisa Autry.
Thank you. My name is Reverend Lisa Autry. I'm have a couple titles, but I have a finance background. I'm a retired banker of 32 years in commercial and corporate banking, also the pastor's wife. So I was able also to get to the leadership pretty quickly. dfree, I learned about dfree. I was serving on a panel, and the person right ahead of me was Miss Janiyah Lake. And I was supposed to do a presentation on whatever I was presenting on in the area of finance. But I was so caught up at what she said about dfree, I started taking notes, and that was the best thing. I can't even tell you what I do know what I talked about, but what she talked about was transformative. We have done financial ministries, education ministries, and I know dfree is far more than that. But we have done that at our church, so it is part of the church. It is not an option for the church. It is biblical that we understand holistic ministry. Includes, Jesus talked about economics. We understand that in the African American church, that it's social justice, but we often leave out economics. And Jesus talked a lot about economics and when he was talking about freedom, so it wasn't an option. So I literally do say dfree was and is an answer to prayer, because it's something we have done, I'm not going to say badly, but very in a limited basis in the past. It certainly did not have people that looked like us. It was not focused on us. And so when I heard about dfree, when I heard about Dr. DeForest Stories, all of those things, I just really almost jumped through the roof. So we brought it to our church in, actually we launched, and I don't want to say we introduced the concept of it or reintroduced July 4th last year, which fell on a Sunday. And so we preached to it, and then we launched it, and we had over 100 people sign up. We graduated 73 people. Amen. In our first round. And as a note, dfree, just how the Lord is leading this for us, we've also been involved in ministry in Ghana, and to learn that out of all the countries in the world outside of the United States where dfree is, that they are in Ghana, was just an amazing thing to me. So there are some things that we're able to do, trying to do, follow what the Lord is leading in terms of what dfree has already done, what they're already doing in terms of finance even over there, and how we may come alongside and partner with that in people we're ministering to. So met actually Dr. Soaries over there in July, earlier this month. One of those it came to pass moments. So we're very, very grateful. We're very, very excited about dfree, and I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. I've seen, thank you so much for that. I've seen firsthand the work that dfree is doing in Ghana. And if you ever get a chance to travel with dfree to Ghana, you must go. You must go. Sister Yolanda, I told you I got your back. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with dfree.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Yolanda Barry. I am a member of Agape Family Worship Center. We're in Broadway.
Let me just speak for just a second.
Hi, good morning. My name is Yolanda Barry. I am a member of Agape Family Worship Center. We're in Rahway, New Jersey. And our pastor is Pastor Lawrence Powell. We have been doing dfree programs since 2017. Elder Audrietta, who is still a member of our team, because we're not letting her go, but she brought dfree. She was introduced to the curriculum and brought it to Agape leadership, and our pastor and our dean, Dr. Odessa, immediately, supported it, jumped on board, and we have been having our classes ever since. We do 2 sessions per year, a fall and a spring semester. As of now, we've graduated over 400 students. Thank you. It's been amazing. I was a part of the first class, and I was voluntold, as she said. So, I came back and I volunteered, and I've been volunteering ever since. I started leading last year, and we have a phenomenal team. It's just been a tremendous experience because I'm still on my dfree journey. As we speak throughout our team, we all are. We say at Agape, it's a movement, and we are truly blessed to have Dr. Sori's curriculum. It's just phenomenal. The steps are when you look at it, and you're involved in it, you realize how practical it is. But it's not something that we're taught in our communities. We're never taught that, So it's just a great feeling for me, and I know for my team, I have my administrator, Joanne, here. We continue to do it because we believe in it, and it also helps us. Each time we do the classes, it's so inspirational. We get so many testimonies, from people just opening savings account, or, or getting out of debt, raising their credit scores a little bit, or just learning things like bringing it to their family, to their dinner table. So it's just been a great experience.
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful. Deacon Davis, your comments about not seeing certain things happen in the church is very similar to my experience. I was in banking for about 15 years, and I would go to my place of employment, and I would see the CEO bringing in children to teach them about financial empowerment. And then one day I went into the boardroom and I saw all of these children, and I realized none of these children looked like me or my children. And it was there that I realized I needed to bring some type of economic empowerment back to my community in Brooklyn, New York. And so with that, I know the reason why I believe dfree is critical to the work of the church. So, Deacon Davis, can you give us some further explanation as to why you believe the dfree movement is critical to the work of your church?
Definitely. So, my church in 2010, we were engrafted into what is now Debar Bethlehem Cathedral. But we were 2 separate churches before that. We had Debar Worship Center and Bethlehem Missionary Church. So Debar Worship Center, we were a praise church, right? And our bishop, our pastor at the time, he really enforced or really taught about the principles of tithing, right? Understand that when you tithe, your tithe is not your fruit, right? Your tithe is your seed. And when you plant a seed, you get more fruit, right? But in that fruit, you have more seeds, right? And when you plant that seed, you don't just get another seed, you get a bunch of fruit with seeds. And so my bishop has always been a person where you've got to praise, and understanding what praise is, but also understanding what tithing is, and understanding that your tithes is not your fruit. So you are planting, when you give your tithes, you are planting to bear fruit, right? And so at Bethlehem Missionary Church, where Overseer Kidd and Pastor Lenore Kidd were the pastors there, we became one church. So we had praise, and Overseer Kidd, he also stressed the importance of tithing. So we brought them together as what we now have Day Bar Bethlehem Cathedral. And we are a church that understands the principle of praise, but also understands the principle of tithing. And so that being said, it was like, okay, I was like, wow, how do we get this, the financial understanding? Oh, and also, sorry, let me back up. When we came together, we decided we were gonna pay off the mortgage of our church, right? We paid off an over $2 million mortgage 6 years early. We are debt-free in our church. And so understanding that we did this collectively for our church, how do we bring this and get our members to understand that you can do it for yourselves? Getting yourself into a principle of being able to be debt-free, delinquency-free, deficit-free, so that you are able to have deeds, deposits, and dividends. And it was like, we knew it like as a community for our church, but now we needed to have it for our members individually. And that is what dfree is allowing us to do, you know, really understanding those principles. So that's why it is so important to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Reverend Autry, you and I got a moment to speak prior, and your experience in banking is broad and amazing. Having this experience, why is dfree critical to the movement of the church? Why should dfree have such a prominent place in the church?
Yeah, thank you. And similar to what the deacon has said, I'll say it this way. Sometimes when we're looking at something, and I'm not saying this to really honestly prop up Dr. Soaries. I'm saying this because it's the truth. Sometimes when we see something, we don't realize how powerful the thing that we are seeing is. And dfree is just that. In our community, with our history in this country, this history coming out of the continent of Africa, the bondage that we are in, and as Dr. Soaries says, the bondage that we voluntarily put ourselves in, but we don't even recognize that it's voluntary because it is part of that system. That's not what the Lord ever had for us. And if the church is going to be the church, we have to be, because we're God's people representing God, and I'm talking to the leaders of churches. If we are going to lead people properly, we can't be part of the problem, and we also can't be part of the ignorance and not bringing this education to our people, this mindset to our people, this understanding of who we are, who God has called us to be, and who God has called us to be is free to do what He's called us to do, free to give where He wants us to give, kingdom money, all of those things for the upbuilding of His kingdom. So that being said, how do we do that? And so I can say Dave Ramsey isn't going to do that. That's not what his goal is. So the dfree financial freedom movement is a tool that the Lord sent through Dr. Soaries, but it is a tool to help us understand the mindset that we're in, and I can't blame everything on Satan, so the mindset that we put ourselves in, the habits that we have, the insecurities that we have, so it's dealing with those spiritual issues and those concrete issues. So dfree, when I said it was an answer and is an answer to prayer, it is something that we have grieved over when we look at our community, but God put this right here, right now, and for the church to not be heading this and leading this, we are doing a disservice to our people, to our congregation, because God laid it out. So the 12 steps, and whether you do it in 6 weeks or 12, to go through it and the mindset, and to do it repeatedly. And so it is part of how God is freeing us from the shackles of being consumers, from the shackles of being at the bottom, for the shackles of being somebody else's, not having option, at somebody else's beck and call. it's freeing us from all of those things. And so, yes, I give honor to Dr. Soares, but it really is understanding this is a tool of the Lord.
Amen. Amen.
You know, I tried dfree on myself before I brought it to the church. And when I read it, when I went through it, when I experienced it, I realized that this is really a movement of liberation. I mean, it really does free you. It's hard to explain, but when you read those first 3 chapters in the book, if you don't cry and if you don't look at yourself and ask yourself some questions, I am telling you, it changes you. The first time I went through those first 3 chapters, and Dr. Soares, I tell this story everywhere I go, I ended up paying $10,000 of credit card debt off. I mean, in the span of two to 3 months. And so there is this work of liberation. There is this work of setting our people free. And like we just discussed, no one is going to do it. And as leaders of pulpits, leaders of organizations, we really have to be the one to set the tone and really help people to understand why this work is so important. So with that said, Mr. Raiford, we've talked about a whole lot. Now let's talk about some practical things. How did you get dfree started at your church?
Thank you for that question. Somebody told me a long time ago, the only thing you can do successfully by yourself is fail. Yeah. So we got a group of like-minded people together who were just understood how important this was to our community and to our church. At Ebenezer, our purpose statement is to, I have to look at it from time to time because it's a mouthful, but we are a church dedicated to individual growth and social transformation, okay, by following in the footsteps and teachings of Jesus Christ. So a group of like-minded folk, and there were about 4 or 5 of us who got together, studied material, looked at all sorts of programs, and including dfree, but dfree just spoke to us. And we just worked hard and studied and then took a look at our congregation. Said, what do we need? And it's a large church, a very large church, and many, covering a whole spectrum of socioeconomic levels. I mean, we've got, some of the richest black folk in America as members of our church, some of the most powerful. But we also have folk who are struggling. What we found, and so part of the issue was, where do we focus? So, the natural thing is to focus on those who are struggling financially. What we came to realize, and I was a financial planner a long time ago as well, is that you could be making 7 figures and still struggling.
Amen. Amen.
And still struggling because, when you get to and the Bible tells us this, the secret to financial success is spend less than you earn. Okay. And you find folk who may be making 7 figures, but they're spending in excess of that. So they're struggling. So the concepts are the same for the supposedly wealthy and the those who have have negative net worth. Okay, which is very key to to understanding how you got to understand where you are, and many of us start out as negative. So once we did that and decided to do it, we leaned very, very heavily on the dfree leadership and training team, very heavily, because the material that we saw that was presented to us is so vast. The question is, how do we tailor this to us? So working with the team, we figured out kind of what we wanted to do, not all of it. And probably most important is that we didn't even figure out most of it. We said, we know what we know, we know what that we don't know at all. So let's just step out on faith and just get this thing started. So we did. And all sorts of people, stepped up. One of our classes, which was very dear to me, one of the students was a single mom with a 4-month-old child. And in that same class was a practicing, what do you call the dentist who do root canals? Okay. Who had tremendous income, but was deep in debt. Okay. And the same concepts were true, rang true for both of them. So the issue, was just, if there was one thing to do is understand why you're doing it, understand as much as you can about your folk and knowing that you're not going to know them all, but just get started.
I was told by someone who was mentoring me as a young man, you've got to be careful to believe that money will fix all of your financial problems. Because when you come from a certain place of lack, typically what happens is as revenue increases, we find a way to make our expenses increase along with our revenue. And so we find ourselves, even with more money, back in the same financial position as we were before. And so dfree really works on the mindset aspect of our understanding of money and how we relate to money and how we treat our money. And so I know we have a few more minutes, and so I want to ask this question. Talk to me about, Reverend Autry, an aha moment that you had going through the dfree curriculum and working with people. What were some moments that you were seeing happening in people, and what were some of your challenges?
Thank you. When we started out, number one, I do give a shout out to the dfree team, Reverend Shonda, Angie and Ghana, and the entire team were really phenomenal. It has been alluded to, some of what we had to do, we took all that was offered and we tried to learn as much as we could. And so going online and going through the trainings, but then we also did tailor it to our people. And so dfree gave us, the aha moment was, number one, the aha moment was that it was free. that was an aha moment, because I kept trying to say, okay, but does the church have to pay? Okay, they don't have to pay, but does the church have to pay? No, it's free. Okay, wait a minute. So that was an aha moment, but a big one. Amen. There was no catch. But really, the other aha moment like that was we could tailor it. We could take what was offered and tailor it to our congregation, and that was okay. And so what we ended up doing, quite honestly, we would actually take portions of tapes and then we would mix in, because we had 6 facilitator-led groups, and then we had 1 self-study group. And out of those, we had it at different days of the week. We tried to meet people where they are in terms of their time and work on it that way. But even on some of them where there were facilitator-led groups, we would prepare PowerPoints or presentations ahead of time. So we would show Dr. Soaries, but then we would stop it. And then we would talk about it, and let's talk. And so some of a lot of the most powerful moments came from the people who were participating as they were having aha moments and sharing with one another, and over and over and over again. And these are, our congregation, we have some people who are very, very close, but they said, even those people were saying, I never thought I would be in a situation where I would share my business like this. Because we all grew up, you don't share your business. And that we could do it in a safe environment. I shared my stuff. All of us shared things that we have struggled with, and those aha moments were phenomenal, that the learning experience came together.
Yeah, when we started it at Berean, thank you so much for that. When we started it at Berean, I was in my office one day, and there was someone who was in the class, and she burst into my office and literally just laid out all of her financial documents on my desk and said, "Help me, please. I need help." And so those are some of the aha moments that were coming out. When people ran through the curriculum, they began realizing it's okay to have this conversation. It's okay to say I need help. It's okay to talk to someone else who has the same skin color as me and ask them for their advice on my financial position. And so those moments kept coming, and they're still coming. We have someone now who's getting ready to finally pay off all their student loans, and they've been doing that for years. And so this works. This works. This works. Our time is short, and I want to ask this question, and we can start with what advice would you give? I got you back. What advice would you give to a church or organization that is interested in joining the dfree movement?
Just do it. Just do it. That's it, really. You know, they have such a well laid out curriculum. I mean, and the team, the dfree team is amazing. My God, they're so supportive. Anytime you call on them, they're there. Dr. Soares did such a phenomenal job that for us, it was easy to follow that. And like Reverend said, we just added to it. So in our classes, what we do is we add experts to our curriculum. And so we supplemented with mortgage experts, with financial advisors who are also part of our team, right? With real estate professionals. And so we supplemented that way to give people more information and help them to have a better understanding. So they have a practical approach, they have the spiritual approach, they have a safe space. And so we make it a family affair too. We ask them to invite your friends, invite your family, bring your children along, you know. And now that the one good thing about the pandemic is that we were able to be virtual. And so now our classes are completely virtual. And so we're reaching people across the country. And so it's even better. And then you have the support of the dfree organization. So I say just do it. It is not, it is definitely easy to accomplish because you have all of the support that you need.
Wonderful. So you heard it first. Just do it. Just do it. Let's go on down the line. Mr. Raiford, what advice would you give to someone that's trying to start dfree in their church or in their organization? dfree is not only for churches. It is for sororities. It is for your business. It is for your homeowners association. It's for your family. It's for your friends. It is not just a church curriculum. And so just in case you're with us or watching online, we want you to know that it is for you wherever you are. It is for you and your people. So, Mr. Raiford, what advice would you give?
I quote the gospel according to Yoda. Yeah, don't try, do.
Deacon Davis.
I'm in total 100%. Just do it. Like, it might seem like it's going to be overwhelming, but everything does when you're not doing it. Everything, nothing that you're not, anything that you want to do that you're not doing seems overwhelming. When you begin to just do the work, you realize, oh, I can do this. And so it's important to just take those steps. Go online if you don't, want to do it with your organization. Maybe you're a little more like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready. Go online and try it. You will see that the information is so phenomenal. You don't want to keep it to just yourself. You want to know that the people you care about are also participating and have this information. That was my drive. I don't want to have this just to myself. I, like you, was like, okay, I can pay my credit card, it's not a big deal. But after going through the program for myself, I took my $15,000 of debt and paid it off. I was like, why am I carrying this? For absolutely no reason. So it's important to just go ahead, do it, try it. I say, try it. You'll see, you will like it. You will love it because you will love understanding where your money is, understanding, oh, I can have a savings. oh, I can do some investing. Oh, I can purchase property. When you realize that your money can work for you and not you work for your money, you will have such a liberation in doing it that there's no reason not to.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we'll end with Reverend Autry.
I'll say a couple of things. Prepare. So thinking ahead of time, even in terms of different people's schedules, their groups. So that's why we had weekday schedules and then weekend schedules, weekend mornings. So just preparing. As leaders, learning what you're going to learn in terms of how you want to launch it, but then think about it from someone's experience in your congregation who's coming in. And what I mean by that, we tried to take as much, and dfree is not difficult, but if anything's new, we tried to remove every obstacle that we possibly could to making it easy for our congregation to get engaged. So there's a lot of instructions that we provided. We provided, we links where they can, okay, the next step you'll do is this, and then you'll expect to see, here's a screenshot, so that when people got on, they were very comfortable. And I'll give an example. It's actually dated because dfree has updated their curriculum, so we're in the process of updating it. dfree's link is on our website very prominently. But if you go, for church leaders, if you want an example of how we did it, if you go to our website, ccrichardson.org, that's like CC like cat, ccrichardson.org, and you go to dfree, you'll see an example of the instructions that we gave our congregation for the self-study in terms of links and things like that. So just make it as easy as possible for them, so when they make the decision, that's not an obstacle that keeps them from going forward. They're not confused about, okay, what do I expect to see? So.
Wonderful. So as you see, there are multiple ways to begin dfree at your institution. There's no one cookie cutter way. For me, I began before even realizing there was a train the trainer, and I just jumped in and I started. And so I am a firm believer in having fun in everything that you do, and dfree has customized this material in such a way that you can customize it for your own way of getting it done. And so, as everyone has said, there is no one way, but you can jump in, you can get it done, and you can begin to change lives in your congregation, in your community, and that is the ultimate goal.